Hello, I'm Nick Hennigan, and this is my pint. Welcome to what is now going to be episode 9, I think, chapter 9 of the Ghost Diaries, the making of Maverick, the stream of consciousness diary that I wrote when we were making A Ghost of a Chance in 1997. It covers 6 months of Maverick work in total and came about, as I mentioned earlier on, after a conversation with a TV producer. Thank you again for your kind comments. It's lovely to hear from you, and especially the people that have worked for Maverick in the past. That's kind of cool. Someone's asked if there's a book available. There is. It's on. This has gone on Kindle quite recently, I think, and there's pictures on that. And it's going to be a hard copy. There is a hard copy as well. We've actually run out at the moment, which is rather nice. But there's going to be some more coming along. So just apropos of anything, as Maverick Theatre's sort of not got any income. With the current lockdown in the United Kingdom in 2020. That's why, by the way, I've had to go at my beard. That's why this is a bit, there's no barbers open. Sorry, no hairstylists. Barber. Anyway, I'll get on. So, let's go back to it. This is the making of Maverick. 29th of May, 1997. Sorry about the previous entry. A bit of nasal gaving, I think. All my nostalgia. I apologise. And I put it down to the fact I obviously need to write a play about 2 kids. One who realises his potential, well, it is fiction, and one who doesn't. Thinking a bit more about it, I realise that it's already been done, and rather spectacularly. Willie Russell has already written Blood Brothers. Mind you, that doesn't mean there's not room for another piece of work to be done. A play may be about kids growing up in Birmingham, with Billsley Common and the city as the backdrop, but with universal problems and situations. I decided to have a think about that soon. 2 boys, 2 girls. Call it Friends. No, that may have been done on the telly. Pals? Maybe. I'll shove that back into the mental drawer for later. Oh well, back to the more mundane job of getting a show on the road. I've rather foolishly used some of the grant money to book an advertisement in the UCI Cinema magazine for A Ghost of a Chance and for Up and Under in an attempt to attract new audiences to the pub theatre concept. The deadline for production of the commercial is Friday. It's now Thursday and I have nothing to give them. So I rather hurriedly arrange for Paul Henry and John Napier to turn up at CBC's photographic studio in Edgbaston. I think it's actually Ladywood, but who's arguing? They're doing it cheap. They're friends. Terry the photographer is great. I want a film type image rather than a traditional theatre shot. Most of what we've done with Maverick has been breaking theatre traditions, and why not carry on? I set up a shot with Paul Henry in the foreground and John in the background. There are a couple of great moments. The first is the look of near horror at the shorts I've brought John to wear. Now, I borrowed them off a mate who's quite small. Now, John Napier never wears shorts, and when you're 14, you know your own mind. But he sweetly relents and gets into them. I don't think he looks too bad, and I explain that it's the summer edition of the UCI's magazine, and I want him to look contemporary and a bit, summery. I think he looks a bit of a dude. I think he looks a bit cool. He would sit well in any Americana film. I think John thinks that I've made him look like a bit of a jerk, but he kind of refrains from saying so. You can see the evidence for yourself in a few weeks. The second moment is watching Paul Henry perform for the camera. He's an international fame. He's a complete professional, and I'm frozen with horror when I stop to think how experienced this man is. Although everyone knows him as the Benny persona, Paul Henry is a really fine actor with years of experience who trained classically. I can't believe I have him and the director, John Adams. Little me, the git from King's Heath. I don't dwell too long on the thought. And even more impressive, Paul has learned the first few pages of the script and starts quoting my own lines at me. Strange days indeed. After the shoot, it's off to the Midlands Arts Centre, the MAC in Cannon Hill Park, to meet John Jay, the solicitor who's going to help us out with Up and Under 2. I managed to refrain from hugging him this time. We go through the ABSA form, the Association of Business Sponsorship of the Arts, which means his kind sponsorship of £1,000 could become £2,000, and we chew the fat a bit. At 8 p.m, actor Tony Harley turns up. Tony's been reading the Paul Henry part in script workshops, and then John Napier and his long-suffering mom/taxi driver arrive. We have a read-through of a new scene I've written, and John and Tony are flying. I love them both. I also decide I've got over my twitchiness and rediscovered my love of working with kids. John's done a great job of sorting me out. In this new scene, which I think will probably make the final script, Tim, the boy character, is possessed by Luke, the entity. Luke is taunting Bob, the dad. Keep up. I wanted to make it unsettling for Bob and therefore hopefully the audience. I have John dancing around Tony, taunting him. John works really hard and takes direction really well. I have to keep reminding myself of his age and inexperience. He's done just one small performance with the Stage 2 youth group. I realise I've also become to recognise his signs of fatigue. Tony copes with being largely ignored in favour of John and begins to bring a harder edge to Bob. I still get it wrong occasionally with John. I ask him to whisper one of the lines into Tony's ear. It will give just the right note of menace, I think. But there's a problem. I ask John why he can't whisper into Tony's ear. He looks at me and he says very patiently, I can't reach his ear. I'm not tall enough. Oops. At the end of the session, we file down to meet John's long-suffering mum. I realise we're 10 minutes late again. Mrs. Napier, as always, is very gracious. It's a slightly weird situation doing read-throughs with stand-ins. Tony is reading Bob, which is being played by Paul Henry, and Tony knows that. We haven't chosen the boy yet, as I'm still doing the rounds of local youth workshops. I asked John if he'll audition. As we're gassing away, John asks me what I think his chances are of getting the part. A bit of me freezes inside. It's the first time he's mentioned it. Up until now, he's been helping me with my script. I don't want the process of choosing a boy to be too competitive for any of them either. I also realise I've become quite fond of John and I'd love him to play the part if he wants to. But more about that and the problems with the forthcoming auditions later.